Ever rolled your eyes at someone and thought to yourself, "What an idiot"? Well, you are certainly not alone. When someone cannot understand you or behave in totally unexpected ways, you may assume there's something wrong with them. The truth is, they may simply be different from you. In Surrounded by Idiots, Thomas Erickson explains how to recognize and communicate with 4 key behavioral profiles. In this Surrounded by Idiots summary, you'll uncover the key traits, differences, strengths, and weaknesses of the 4 types of behaviors and how to effectively interact with each type. Why are some people so quiet while others talk non-stop? Why are some people always late while others are punctual? Why do you relate naturally to some people but find others irritating? Our behavioral differences come from a mix of internal factors like personality, character, temperaments, and external factors like environment and situational factors. Our core values and attitudes affect how we behave and who we aspire to become. Our values define what we think is right or wrong, like it's wrong to lie or hard work is good. Our attitudes are the opinions that we develop from our life experiences. For example, salespeople can't be trusted. We also moderate our behaviors based on what we think is appropriate for a given situation. In any communication, what matters isn't what you say, but what the recipients hear and interpret based on their perceptions, biases, and frames of reference. To interact more effectively, you need to understand your own tendencies, others' needs, preferences, and how others may perceive your actions, so you can tailor your approach accordingly. 4 behavior types, 4 colors. This book describes 4 behavior types: dominance, inducement, submission, and analytic, DISA, which explain the key differences in human behavior and communication. Each behavior type is associated with a color: red, yellow, green, and blue. These behavior types have existed for millennia. That is, people have been behaving like this for a very long time. Thomas Erickson brings these ideas to life by organizing the 4 behavior types around 4 colors. These 4 colors are meant to help us understand why people behave the way they do, not to narrowly compartmentalize people. Every color has its desirable and not so desirable traits. A quality like ambition can be a strength in some situations and a liability in others. Different situations also call for different behaviors, so treat the behavior patterns as tools that you can use. It's impossible to account for all human differences, and there will always be exceptions. Moreover, we are capable of adapting our behaviors instead of rigidly sticking to one set of behaviors. Only 5% of people have one dominant color, 80% have 2 dominant colors, and 15% have 3 dominant colors. No one seems to have all 4 dominant colors. Reds are driven, ambitious, decisive, and dynamic, which makes them natural leaders. They bring energy and momentum to a team project, are extremely competitive, work hard, and constantly challenge themselves. Reds are task-oriented and are always on the go. They're straightforward in their communication and won't hesitate to state their views. However, Reds can appear aggressive, impatient, or domineering. They're so focused on getting things done that they may bulldoze over others or leave others behind. They may also interrupt others, assert their views, or seem controlling/confrontational. Yellows are positive, creative, and sociable. They are social butterflies, outgoing, popular, and have a huge social network. Yellows are always full of vitality, fun, and laughter, infecting others with their positive energy. They're also optimistic, resourceful, and inspiring. Of the 4 colors, yellows are the most animated, expressive, and talkative. However, yellows can also come across as impulsive, attention-seeking, and overly verbose. They are bad listeners and tend to dominate a conversation, often spew ideas or opinions without prior thought or knowledge. They're so fun-loving that they may resist rules, miss deadlines, appointments, and get carried away by excessive optimism. Greens are calm, stable, and loyal. They prefer a calm, predictable environment where they can move at a leisurely pace. They're patient, reliable, great team players, but shy away from the spotlight. They'd avoid conflict wherever possible to maintain harmony and stability. On the flip side, greens may be perceived as stubborn, indifferent, or even dishonest. They don't change their minds or take action until something feels truly right for them. The bigger the challenge or problem, the more they hold back. So, they can seem slow or resistant to change. To avoid conflict, greens may sit on the fence or speak in vague terms. Even if they disagree with something, they're unlikely to speak up, preferring to voice their displeasure privately behind your back. Blues are detail-oriented, analytical, and perfectionists who seek to have the right answers to everything. They categorize, label, and document everything and do things in a systematic way. You'll find them using complex spreadsheets and decision-making tools to evaluate a problem from all angles. They will check everything multiple times and insist on contingency plans before taking action. They don't speak unnecessarily, preferring to quietly observe and analyze everything around them. However, blues may also be perceived as distant, pessimistic, and fastidious. It can be slow and tedious to work with them. They can also appear cold and critical, always asking for evidence and pointing out risks and problems. As we've briefly seen in the previous sections, it's no secret that personality differences can lead to clashes. When people are as different as reds and blues, for example, it's hardly surprising that misunderstandings can arise, causing people to feel as though it's impossible to work together. That's why breaking down misconceptions is key to creating a more inclusive environment. So how can we learn to stop misunderstanding others? Erickson suggests that the first step is to learn more about each personality's traits so we can understand what they are and are not. For example, to a more reserved blue, a yellow's chattiness might be perceived as annoying or attention-seeking. As a result of this misunderstanding, a blue might develop resentment towards a yellow colleague, feeling that they always try to monopolize the conversation or dominate others. From the yellow's perspective, however, they're simply being their friendly selves, always ready with an idea, a funny anecdote, or a smile. They don't see anything wrong with being confident and speaking up, and they're likely to be confused by a blue's reticence, perhaps mistaking it for rudeness, hostility, or a lack of personality. And because yellows are always overflowing with ideas, they might expect others to communicate the way they do, by quickly interjecting, without understanding why a blue feels the need to be given time, space, and a literal invitation to share their thoughts. As a result, a yellow who works closely with blues might quickly arrive at the conclusion that they're surrounded by idiots. But of course, this perception is simply a misunderstanding or an inability to see the valuable qualities a blue brings to the table. Likewise, blues might fail to recognize yellows for the gifted communicators they are. This misunderstanding can cause people to place an unhealthy emphasis on each other's differences, when instead, a yellow should appreciate the blue's realism and attention to detail, two things yellows often lack. While blues should acknowledge that their yellow counterparts can be an asset when it comes to speaking up, taking charge, and handling social situations. How to communicate effectively. Now that we've discussed the differences between each personality type, you've probably already figured out the primary point of this chapter. Each personality type communicates differently. It might reassure you to learn that communicating with reds can be quite straightforward in certain aspects. Given their focus on practical solutions and efficiency, they tend to value a direct approach that doesn't involve excessive flattery or tiptoeing around sensitive issues. While maintaining tactfulness is important, a red personality will respect your ability to address matters directly and come prepared with specific examples of the problem you wish to discuss. This may require some effort, especially if you don't naturally have a red personality, so be ready to stand your ground confidently and assertively without letting any intimidation deter you. Due to the inherent dominance of reds, they might attempt to dominate conversations or exploit any hesitation as an opportunity to assert their perspective as correct. Being aware of this tendency can empower you to approach such situations with the right mindset. Yellows, however, require a totally different approach. When delivering constructive criticism to a yellow, you don't want to come across as heavy-handed or be as direct as you might with a red. Instead, strive to keep things light. Start with a joke, perhaps, and don't be afraid to start by engaging in pleasant small talk. Because people with a yellow personality prefer a more light-hearted approach, they're more likely to be receptive and at ease under these circumstances. If you try to approach them in the same spirit you'd use with a red, you're likely to be met with resistance and hurt feelings. However, Reds and yellows do share one commonality when it comes to tough conversations, and that is the need to be prepared with specific talking points. Where a red may try to invalidate your argument unless you're armed with solid proof, a yellow might, unintentionally, steer you off topic simply by virtue of their chatty nature. Because yellows are highly gifted with gab and known for going off tangents, it's easy to leave a conversation with the feeling that you never got to your original point. So if you want to avoid that, be prepared with a list of talking points, whether in your head or on paper, that you can return to keep the conversation on track. And lastly, Erickson suggests a tip that can come in handy when dealing with any and all personality types. Make sure you both discuss and agree on the takeaway from this meeting. This is a great step for ensuring clear communication between both parties because it removes all room for misunderstandings. You might even suggest that you both write down what you've agreed to, especially if this involves a major change to a project or office policy, as this can be particularly helpful for chronically forgetful yellows. Final summary. Sometimes, we might feel like everyone around us doesn't understand a thing. But Erickson explains that this often happens because we don't quite get how different people's personalities work. However, if we take time to learn about how others talk and think, we can fix these misunderstandings and get better at communicating. Step 1 is to figure out 4 main personality types, each with a color and what they're like. Red personalities are all about being in charge and ambitious. On the other hand, yellow folks are cheerful, talk a lot, and stay positive. But greens are more quiet and think a lot, wanting things to stay steady. Blues are like greens in many ways, being quiet and thinking about details, even if they sometimes lean towards a gloomy view. When you understand how each type thinks and what they care about, you can work together better and talk without getting too frustrated.